Dante's Inferno or L'Inferno, if you want to go with the original
If you
Italian
want to, if
title.
you want to be all fancy schmancy about it.
Yeah.
Ben will call it L'Inferno. I will call it Dante's Inferno because I'm not highfalutin like that. So, Ben, my understanding is you're going to take us through most of this, but
Yeah.
I want to ask you to confirm a couple of things off the top. I heard that this is possibly the first horror film, and is without a doubt the first full length feature film from Italy.
Yeah.
I believe it is the first feature length film from Italy. As far as horror film, I know that Edison did a version of Frankenstein very early on in the advent of film. So I don't know. I know that it is considered to be the oldest surviving feature film as well.
Really?
Yeah. So,
Well,
but
that's
yeah,
something.
it's.
Is it older than Trip to the Moon? I
It's
don't know when Trip to the Moon was.
1911.
I think Trip to the Moon was 1912. I could be.
We're looking it up in real time. 1902 is when Trip to the Moon was. But it was a short.
Yeah, Trip to the Moon was short.
Yeah.
So
So this is a historical film in a couple of ways then.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you see these shots here in the River Styx, just the number of extras and
And
the
isn't that
sets
poop? Like, doesn't it say that they're in poop there?
it's
don't think
it's
so.
sulfur pits, right? I thought it was sulfur pits.
Oh, maybe I'm just thinking Ben and poop. I associate those after Salo. So
Okay.
But yeah, you can see the sets and the costumes and the number of extras. That this was a really remarkable production. And from what I understand, as far as its premiere in the States, this was the first like feature film that they showed in its entirety. Previously, they would show films episodically because they weren't confident that people would want to sit in a theater long enough to watch.
This movie took
feature length.
it took 3 years to make this film.
Oh yeah, yeah. I guess from between 1908 and 1911, they showed this. But yeah, it's more or less an abridged summary of Dante's Inferno, which was written in the 1300s after Dante, the poet in Italy, was exiled from Florence for his political views. Apparently, it was a difference in opinion on the validity of the papacy as a political entity in Florence. And so he wrote this, partially for its philosophical value, but also kind of make a list of all his political enemies and how he envisioned them suffering in hell. And kind of an interesting fact about that was the first instance of sinners being punished in poetic ways in hell, like the way that being envisioned in art. Before it was just kind of like you're just burning in hell. With this, it's broken down into 9 circles. A lot of people think it's 7 circles to match the number of deadly sins, but it is 9 circles of hell, with the lowest pit being for traitors, and it is actually a lake of ice. So Dante, in the course of his life's journey, finds himself in a forest and he's lost. I think they say midway upon life's journey. So almost like a midlife crisis. He's in this forest, he's lost. I believe the film says that he's attempting to ascend the mountain of salvation, but he's blocked by 3 different beasts, a leopard, a lion, and one other type of beast. And so he has to take a different path. And he meets the Roman poet Virgil, who becomes his guide through the afterlife. The Divine Comedy goes through Inferno, Purgatory, and Paradise. And it's all like in his goal to achieve salvation and also to reunite with his unrequited love, Beatrice. In real life, Dante had this unrequited love, and she's an angel in the Divine Comedy. But again, this is basically an abridged version of part 1 of 3. And it goes through the different circles of hell. And in the story, the original story, he does kind of confer with the different sinners and he hears their story. And in the original work, there's just a number of references to ancient history, these figures from ancient history and the history contemporary to the 1300s. The film kind of cherry picks some of them and then with these effects expresses them with wondrous appeal. But
I'm seeing a lot of butts. Is that part of the wondrous appeal for you?
Yeah, I mean, in
This is a strange way to get your porn, Ben.
And then you have Cerberus here, the three-headed dog. And that's the other thing that was interesting about Dante's Inferno, the original work, and that they highlight here in part in the film, is that it blended a lot of Greek and Roman mythology. And this is
Sounds
the,
like it.
I believe this is the second Circle of Hell, for Centers of Lust, where they're constantly buffeted by winds and rain, and never feeling warmth and comfort. But yeah,
This is like the worst Disney World ever.
But I actually had the privilege of seeing a live score for this film in 2019, performed by Maurizio Guarini of Goblin fame. Goblin having scored Suspiria and a number of other horror films in the 70s and 80s.
Goblin's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool, especially since at that time there wasn't a version of this film that didn't have a Tangerine Dream score to it, which I never really.
I actually wanted to watch that version, but I had a hard time finding it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Red Creek Studios, they're kind of a small French outfit that remasters silent films. They did a crowdfunding campaign to remaster this, and their master was released by TerrorVision, kind of a small
Was
video
this just
label.
a year ago?
Yeah, that was about, well, it was like a couple years ago was the crowdfunding campaign, but I think it was about a year or so ago that TerrorVision put out their Blu-ray of this. But yeah, it's a wondrous film for its effects and just the way that you consider 1911, like the film industry at that time, it was so experimental. They didn't know what worked yet. They just did it. And they did it with wondrous aplomb here. Just this shot of Lake Cocytus. That's the name of the frozen lake in the pit of hell, and these traders frozen in the lake. It's just amazing to see that so early on in film history. But
it has its moments. I would say perhaps it's a bit like Pulp Fiction is for you. Now, I didn't watch it from beginning to end. I really just skimmed it, but I'm not sure that for me this is a film that I could watch from beginning to end like I could watch like Metropolis.
You have this shot of Satan here devouring. He has three different heads. Yeah. Three different heads devouring the worst traitors: Judas, Cassius, and Brutus. The latter two having been important in the assassination of Julius Caesar. Basically.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes right there.
Nom.
Yeah.
Nom, get in my belly.
So, Ben, I wanted to ask you, since you probably know way more than anybody on this show about this movie, at the very beginning when Beatrice descends, she has what looks like, she's not supposed to be an angel, right, in the Divine Comedy, but she has what looks like wings or something happening behind her when she descends. Do you know what that is? It almost looks like, it almost looks like it almost looks like a biblical kind of interpretation of what angels look like.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, she in the Divine Comedy, she is an angel, but Beatrice was somebody that Dante had known in his life, that it was just this woman that he pined for, and it was just an unrequited love. But so he renders her as an angel in the Divine Comedy, and she's kind of summoning him to the third.
Is that her?
There's that scene
to paradise. Yeah.
So look at her wings,
or
whatever those are.
I couldn't tell if they were doing that to make her look ethereal or if there was just a windmill behind her.
I assumed it was to make her look ethereal, but I thought it was really a really interesting shot.
And there's me sitting on a rock.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think there was a project to produce Paradise Lost, starring Bradley Cooper as the devil, that never came to fruition. And I just think it's interesting that since 1911, we've never really seen an epic portrayal of the underworld like you see in this film. I think there might have been another one from the 30s adapting Dante's Inferno that I'm not super familiar with.
I feel like there has to be another couple.
I don't know. I think,
but certainly none in recent times that I can remember.
Mm-mm.
Now, I also saw that this was advertised when it first came out as being 2 hours and 15 minutes long. Like the poster said, 2 hours and 15 minutes of startling scenic surprises. which I think is a really good way to synopsize it because it's just like a travelogue through hell.
I did see
Literally.
that on the IMDb, but
But the version that they restored is only 71 minutes, so it seems like this might be another Metropolis where there's a bunch of footage that's lost or unavailable right now that maybe will be found at some point.
What's interesting about the version that Red Creek restored, it's a red tint version, which because red tinted film was so either expensive or hard to come by or something, that was kind of the form of copyright protection back in the day, that the red tinted film was the official version because it was difficult to reproduce or acquire without, being a first party studio.
Well, this is blue, so it must be some bootleg shit. Well, this is a hard film for me to rate, and I'm going to abstain because I haven't watched it from beginning to end. But do either of you gentlemen want to give it a score?
It's a 10 for me.
Yeah, I probably should abstain too. I watched it most of the way through, but I can't really say I watched it all the way through. So it wouldn't be fair for me to give it a score. But if I did, it probably would not be a 10. But that's like
Dante's Inferno has a special place in my heart, like the original book.
What does that say about you?
Well, when I was in high school, we would have required reading, and sometimes I felt like I don't know, there was something strange about being forced to read somebody's work for an assignment. I get that they're trying to make students aware of it, but to force it and then grade their understanding of it, it was just something I rebelled against quite a bit.
That's pretty much all of school.
Yeah, it's not a unique experience.
So especially in the case of like George Orwell's 1984, I felt like there was some weird irony to the state requiring me to read 1984.
Oh,
but so I would.
Boy,
read,
you were a fucked up kid, weren't you?
Right?
I read Dante's Inferno on my own time. I would bring it to class, and I had this very provocative like cover. It was like some I don't know if it was like a Hieronymus Bosch like insight of his triptych of the afterlife where there's all those naked people and everything, but I would bring that to school. I would read it, and I would make it well known to my teachers. This is what I'm reading instead. There was just nothing they could do about it.
My God.
It's like, well, you're still reading classic literature. So.
I bet you were the student who, when the teachers met in the teachers lounge, like you were the one where like they, I've tried to quit smoking for 6 months, but I can't. There's just this one kid. And everybody's like, oh yeah, it's Ben, right? Yeah, that's
my
the one.
folks got some funny calls home on occasion. So
you're a weirdo, Ben. You're a weirdo. God bless you. Yeah, this film I didn't know about it before Ben told me about it, and so when I researched it, it's interesting to see how it fits into film history. I don't know that it's the kind of thing I can watch for fun. But I like to think that I can go pretty far back in time, like Metropolis and the other silent films I really do enjoy watching on their own, every so often anyway. But this one's way back. This is like 15 years older than Metropolis even, so this is like way... This movie's more than 100 years old.
This is before World War One, which is interesting to think about too. And then, Scott, you were like, "Well, we have too many '80s films." I'm like, okay, let's.
This will blow the curve. This one blows the curve a bit.